Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Australian Survivor episode 4. This was a big episode tonight, one that all of us were looking forward to because we knew that Hayley coming into this episode was going to play with fire, being the only returning player that's coming back as a winner and trying to beat this winner curse ended up being a big part of the storyline for this episode. But let's get into my top 5 takes for this episode, and we start off with Sean. Sean came back into the season as someone that I rated extremely high. I thought he had potential the first time he played, and at this point he is looking like the person in that tribe that is really the brains of the operation when it comes to the Meat Tray Boy alliance, if that is a thing or not. He's got Sam in this alliance, he's got David in this alliance, and Sam in this episode, when they win the reward, the heroes that is, he finds a clue to an idol, and he says he's not the brightest tool in the box. He needs other people to help him find this idol. He confides in Sean, who ultimately in this episode uses that clue to find his very first idol of this season. Once again showing that if you're someone that is good at finding idols, you can find them again on other seasons, just like George did last week. So seeing the boys work together here and really listening to Sean as the leader makes me think that Sean is someone that could go on all the way to win this season. He also got a little bit of content in that first week when we didn't see much of the heroes, which is definitely a positive thing. He's on my radar, especially if he does follow through and take Hayley out, because he notices that she is very dangerous this episode. He sees her going around and talking to different people to get this vote together against Rogue, and also coming up with the plan to take Rogue out in the first place. So I think Sean's onto Hayley and he's not going to let that go, and I really like the fact that he was starting to build that bridge there with Flick, who we know has been burned by Hayley in the past. That is something that definitely is going to come back to bite Hayley in this game. Moving on to take number 2, Hayley's plan to throw this challenge actually works out for her, and she does end up beating the winner's curse of being someone that gets voted out immediately coming back into this game. It's something that I'm very excited to see her do. We saw all of her skills on full display here this episode, the way that she was moving, getting the numbers together to vote out Rogue, but not just getting the numbers to vote out Rogue, making sure that that second vote is also not coming her way was very impressive to see. Now you might say that, she was found out by Sean, but I don't feel like a lot of people coming into this game would have given Hayley any chance to even get past this first vote, coming back as a winner. Obviously previous winners didn't have a rogue in their season that could make it a bit easier for them, but Hayley still had to do a lot of work here, and she had to start mending those bridges with Flick, going out and looking for an idol together with Flick to try and get her back on her side, and also reaching out to Nina. But she speaks to everyone this episode, which is impressive to witness, and I do think that just like with George, if you keep Hayley in this game long enough, and especially if those two link up as the two biggest threats in this game, I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to continue to stay in this game. Another thing that we do know with Hayley is that when it gets to the individual portion of this game, and when it comes to those physical challenges and those endurance challenges, she's going to be a beast. The boys definitely noticed it in this episode. They said that if she was doing this on her own, she probably could have won it, and I do agree. She clearly threw the challenge here and fell off when she was hanging onto that pole, but I do think that Hayley is going to be a threat to be reckoned with before the merge. You have to get her out before the merge. Obviously, as someone who picked her as my number 1 female pick for the draft that we're doing here on the Nullified Take channel, I don't want her to go immediately, but I am very fearful that she could very well be next in line, if not next, the vote after that. I think they need to get rid of her before the merge. Take number 4, we finally find a weakness in Simon's physical abilities. Now, he's been an absolute beast for the villains tribe, and they finally get this win here for the first time in the immunity challenge. Is this going to come back to bite the heroes? I kind of think it can, because we've seen many a times in Survivor history that when you throw a challenge, you sometimes give that momentum back to a team that just didn't believe that they had that in them to actually go the distance and win. And this could be something that could turn into a couple of wins in a row for the Villains, which I'm obviously hoping for. JLP definitely let them know that they were the worst tribe in Survivor Australia history by losing 3 immunity challenges in a row, which wouldn't have felt good, but getting this win is going to mean a lot for them. Coming back to Simon, he struggled here obviously as one of the more beefy and bulky guys in that tribe. He ended up not being able to hang on there for too long and dropping out. You would have to ask yourself, if this was an individual immunity, how would he have done in that case? But definitely this was a challenge that were made for the smaller men like Stevie, who did exceptionally well, and also the women obviously hanging in there right until the end. You had Shani and Haley on the Heroes tribe there at the end, and most of the women for the Villains tribe still hanging in there. It's been a very impressive performance by the likes of Shani, Sarah and Liz here in this specific challenge. Take number 4. Geordie and Simon has a bit of a conversation here about the advantage that Simon found in the cookie jar, and Geordie is also very surprised that it didn't come in the shape of a necklace. And what was strange to see with this conversation is that even though he was surprised by that, he doesn't question the legitimacy of the actual advantage that Simon has in his possession. He just says that it's strange it doesn't have a necklace, and Simon tells him, yes, it didn't, but I found it in the cookie jar, and they leave it at that. Someone that's played this game before and a fan of Survivor like he claims he is, you would have thought he would ask, where is the actual note that came with it that tells you what this is? Otherwise, it's just the disc you've got in your hand. So we clearly now know that it isn't an idol. So I think this is going to come back to bite Simon in the butt when he tries to finally make this move against George, because it doesn't seem to be anything at this stage unless there is an advantage or a clue that's going to be found in that cookie jar at some stage. Now I know when you look online, there's a lot of people who are very interested to see Simon's downfall here this season, and a lot of people who are very salty about the fact that he did burn George's hat. So I'm sure there's a lot of George lovers and maybe anti-Simon lovers that want to see him fail here. I want to see how this plays out, because clearly it looks like something that production put in there. So for all we know, it could still be an advantage, and it's something that later on in the season might still come back in a big way. Now, take number 5. I left this one for last on purpose. I said last week in one of my takes that Rogue possibly is the worst player we've ever seen play Australian Survivor, and I think tonight showed that that is the case. I don't like going hard on players when I do these types of content on my channel. I feel like, play the player, not the person behind that. But Rogue really didn't know what she was getting herself into coming into this game. She wasn't planning on making friends throughout this whole thing. She didn't seem to like any of the people she was playing with, and a lot of the times when I looked at it, I was questioning if she understood that the social game was something, or did she just want to get voted out? Did she do this for fame and recognition so that people could know her name? I'm not too sure, but again, this comes down to why Australian Survivor should quit doing these castings where they go after celebrities or people that are famous who are not passionate about the show and doesn't understand it. Now, it may have been entertaining for a lot of people to see her go down in flames like this. The only thing I could think of the whole time when I saw her go down like this is that she took up a spot that we could have given to another Survivor fan to go out there and play this game, who maybe would have given it a better crack. For the second time in a row here, we saw a newbie completely tank their game at the Tribal Council. I legitimately believe Sean wanted to make a move against Haley, and obviously with Rogue just not wanting to play ball, you can't drag this person into the game any deeper, because if a swap happens, if there's any opportunity for Rogue to jump ship and play with the villains, I think she would have done it, and that's why it's the right reason for them to take her out in this spot. I was also very happy to see Nina finally get some opportunity to talk. For her to be able to say, listen, Rogue, you clearly just made it hard for us to want to be friends with you, and bringing up the comment about where she's from and how Rogue responded to that. I kind of wish she also brought up the whole African American comment, which I thought was just not on, but I think maybe because of how the public responded to that comment after the first episode, the editing team may have left that on the cutting floor if Nina did actually bring that up. I hope it's not the case. I hope that Nina did bring that up as well, because it was very very non-hero-like comments that she was making. And this whole season I felt like she was being a bit of a hypocrite, because she was talking about what a hero should be like while acting like a villain. So good riddance to Rogue here in this episode. I'm not going to miss her. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. If you like this content, consider subscribing, consider hitting the like button. We will be back with our top 5 takes for tomorrow night's episode, and we will have our longer form podcast recap at the end of the week. For now, see you next time. Bye.